Yeah, that's it, brother. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right, mate. I've got to tell you, and I have to confess, I have resisted this fucking technology thing because it's like I knew we were just talking about it to the previous bloke, Dean, and I started to be suspicious of and reject technology in when I was quite young, and it was because of books like 1984 and other things. And, I remember reading Alvin Toffler, who's an American journalist. He wrote a book called Future Shock during the 70s and predicted that technology would be responsible, or at least have the capacity to enhance our lives in a very positive way. But as with all things in life, there would be a negativity attached to it,
Yep.
and that would be the price we have to pay. To enjoy the good shit, you've got to fucking take the bad shit. And so you know, I've always been skeptical and suspicious about technology. So I learned to use a computer grudgingly because I fucking had to. You know. Anyway, it's like recent times talking about technology. I, like fucking most of the population of the world, got vaccinated. I didn't want to. I knew it was wrong. And, these cunts were sort of saying, well, you can't fucking not only just travel out of my own country to another country, which is vital for us to tour. We were touring Europe at the time when we got sent home because they were going to close all the airports. So we were halfway through a European tour.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that I've always been suspicious of the so-called technology of vaccination anyway, because it's caused serious problems for a lot of people, but particularly children, obviously. But so to be told that you can't see, we were told similar over there as well. You can't leave your house. I mean, I tried. I got on. I got outside, and I was driving down the road, and I got pulled over by the police, and they said, "What are you doing out?" I said, "Well, I'm going shopping."
Yeah.
And they said, I said, for fucking groceries. And they said, well, you can order online. I said, I don't fucking want to. I don't want to order online. I don't, I'm quite capable. And they said, well, have you got because when you got vaccinated here, you got a little fucking card stamped. And they said, well, have you got vaccination? I said, no. And they knew who I was,
Yeah.
And they said, well, you got to turn around and go home. I'm practically there, like I'll just go and do my shop. And they said, no, you can't go in there because there's other people in there that have been vaccinated, supposedly.
Yeah.
Because there was no in those days, there was no one on the streets. In fact, it was like walking around, it was like in a ghost town. It was fucking awful.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So do I call you Gary or Angry or Mr. Anderson?
Angry.
Angry, eh?
Angry.
Yes, said Angry. I'm just curious, how did the name Angry come about anyway? Is it your stage persona or is it more of your personal life?
Um, one is an extension of the other.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as a singer in a rock and roll band, most singers, and in fact, I can't think of one that hasn't, but you sort of create a persona, if you like, or it's you draw on your own natural abilities, if you like, for want of a better way of putting it.
Yep.
Or your personality traits, etc. I'm 5'2". Well, apparently I'm not. Apparently I'm 5'1". Um, I used to be 5'2". But so I always suffered from a little bloke syndrome,
Yeah.
right? So, I grew up with like a domestic violence. I came from, like a household that was domestic violence. So,
Mm.
physical violence, emotional violence, it's always been part of my life. And yes, so what happened was that when I started performing, I would, I became a physically demonstrative singer.
Yeah.
And, I always chose music that allowed me to express my inner anger. Um, when I was a child, I was the victim of a pedophile. Domestically, I had a domestic violence situation between my biological parents to deal with, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I grew up in a very, very tough, hard working class area, very, very industrial area. And, it was pretty rough. So, yeah, by the time I got to start performing, and I was nicknamed by a great mate of mine who was a very, very colourful identity in the rock and roll industry. And he nicknamed me the Angry Ant. And
Mm.
the ant part got dropped very quickly because it was too the angry ant. It's like, well, just angry is good. So I've been angry ever since. But yeah, it was. It's like so many nicknames.
Mm.
They can either be a derivatory of of your own personal name, or they can be a name that describes you, or you know, uh, gives you some sort of character reference.
And Rostetto will be releasing a single, Hard Road, in February 27. It is a Stevie Wright single. So the music is the first music since Blood Brothers, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
what took Rostetto that long to release a single?
Well, we've never been prolific. We've never been a band that turns out an album every 1 or 2 years for the sake of having new product. We've always our albums have always been motivated by the time, like for, in other words, like it's time to do an album, or there's something to say. Usually the two things come at once. But the last album, as you say, Blood Brothers, was recorded in 2008, released in 2009, because it was the last album that I was going to be able to write with Mick, who was dying at the time of cancer. And he was the last of, the original lineup, apart from myself. And not the original, but the lineup that recorded the first album. And Mick and I wrote the first album and the second album, Assault and Battery. So as a sign off for him, because he and the rest of us, we all knew he was dying of cancer. So we quickly got that album together, and I'd always been, and the other boys are too, but I've always been a real fan of Stevie Wright as a performer and a singer-songwriter. And that comes from the early days with the Easy Beats, which of course George Young, Harry
Yeah.
Vander. So there's all that tie-up. And I remember saying to Stevie years ago, that there was a couple of his songs that I really loved that one day I would cover. I imagined that I would cover them more as a solo artist, not so much as the band. But we were doing Blood Brothers. I brought up, I said, like, maybe we should, because Stevie was dying as well.
Mm.
And so we sort of said, like as a tribute. And I was thinking about Hard Road, but which is our current single. But I didn't want to. I thought it was too early to do that.
Yep.
So I said, let's look for another song. Anyway, Steve King, the bass player in the band at the time, who's now playing bass with us again, he said, "What about Black Eye Bruiser?" Because lyrically, it's suited the band, And so yeah, we did a demo of it and recorded it, and so that was the first Stevie Wright cover, and he so loved our version of the song. And I told him when we were talking about what he thought of Black Eye Bruiser, and I said, somewhere down the track, I'm going to do Hard Road because it's a story of my life. And it was the story of it, because Stevie and I were great mates, and we both shared not so much the secrets of our youth or childhood, but our struggles with life. He struggled with substances, and he did. He really struggled with the weight of fame because he took it really, really personally.
Yeah.
And he was a very, very extremely sensitive man with a beautiful view of life. He had a wonderful view of all the beauty of life, but the wonderful intricacies of the human relationships, not just with his mum and dad, with his band members, with women, of course. I think one of the Evie parts 1, 2, and 3 is probably one of the greatest love songs ever written and performed. And so he had a beautifully soulful grasp on life, and he and I talked passionately about that many, many, many times over the years. So doing Hard Road on this is a salute to him. It's just like, well done, brother. God rest, you rest in peace now, sort of thing. So
yeah, that's interesting because I was going to ask you, lyrically, does it reflect your early childhood? Because I mean, I would imagine that, when you were 15, 16, or 17 years old, you told your parents, you know what, I'm moving out, becoming a rock star with a guitar behind your back. And dad tells you, son, you're a fool. Did that happen? I know it's by Stevie Wright, but did that actually happen with you as well? I mean, because I actually thought this song is more about freedom, more about doing what you want. But it's quite an interesting take what you mentioned. It's actually quite a poignant take, if you ask me.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, brother. And we discussed that. We talked about that. I'll tell you a beautiful moment, a beautiful story. I remember, when I'd sent him the copy of Black Eye Bruiser, and he said, I love it. I love it. I love what you've done with it. And anyway, so we were down in the area sometime later, like 6 months later or whatever, playing. So, we caught up, and he asked me, he said, why did you leave out the middle eight, the quiet section? And I said, well, because that's not the Tats. I said, that's you, Stevie. That's you. I mean, that's why I would never, would sing Evie. There's 3 or 4 different songs of his which I wouldn't touch because they're sacred territory. And I said, well, that middle section, all I want, is some love and understanding. I relate to the lyric, but that's so him.
Yeah.
And that's not Angry Anderson. That was, the tough part of Black Eye Bruiser. That's more Rose Tattoo. That's me. That's sort of Rose Tattoo, the band. So when we talked about, I said, as soon as somewhere down the track, I'm going to cover Hard Road. And I said, because I relate to the lyric. It's like it was written about me. And he said, yes, it was. not written about me particularly, but written about himself, myself, Bond, any other, the people that he knew and had relationships with. But any singer that sort of turns their back, like at a very young age, because you do make that decision at a very young age. It's like being tattooed. I mean,
Yeah.
I was tattooed before I was legally old enough to be tattooed, So it was a decision I made consciously that I knew. I mean, these days you can remove them, but back in the day when I first started getting tattooed, there was no way known you could take them off. So they were permanent. It was a decision you made. And the decision you make to hit the road in esoteric sense, to turn your back on conventionality, maybe the expectations of your mother and father, or or those sort of relationships, you make the decision, I have to go my own way. And you're right, brother. You're right. It's about exercising. There's a voice inside you that says you need the freedom of the road, and that to use the poetic terminology. But you need, which is why even at 77, I still say that on stage every night. When we introduce Rock and Roll Outlaw, the song is about freedom. It's about, I need to have this. I've been called, if you like, by the cosmos to go on this journey, like we all are through our lives. Everyone is called to do something or to live their lives some way. Some people ignore it, far too many, I think, and don't ever realise their real calling or their real purpose. But they still have a great life anyway. So I'm not being condescending there. But yeah, like all great rock and roll songs, it was written for us, for all of us, by one of us. And Stevie was really good as a lyricist at capturing that essence of what it is to be a singer in a rock and roll band.
It is also, I was listening to the song for the very first time a couple of days ago, and into the second chorus, I was already singing to the second chorus. I mean, it's a very catchy song, isn't it? I mean, it's built for
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I firmly believe in my heart that the same reaction he had to Black Eyed Bruiser, and he said, "Yeah, that was good." He said, "I can't imagine any other band apart from possibly AC/DC that could cover it, the song." And so I firmly believe that he knows about Hard Road, and I firmly believe that he's approving of what we've done with the song, how we've interpreted it, because it's like with Black Eyed Bruiser, we didn't try to copy Stevie Wright's version. We created a version of our own because we were paying tribute to him, but we didn't want to mimic him. And same with Hard Road. We took it and we rose tattooified it. we played it like we wrote it.
Yeah, exactly. And Rose Tattoo are currently on tour. We started in January and will end in May. Is this part of the Greatest Hits tour?
It's the last couple of years. What we've tried to do is change the set about every 3 months, even if it's only a couple of songs, so that we get to play all the songs from the early recordings right through. Most of them work. There's a couple that haven't worked live, so we've not continued with them. But by the end of it, we would have played all of the songs, particularly here in Australia, or wherever else we go. I mean, we're limited sometimes by time frames, etc. But we try to rotate the songs so that we play as many before the end, but also we're also now off the back of Hard Road, where we've been writing songs, and we should have an album out by the end of the year. And then next year, we're going to bring back two players. Stephen King, who's playing bass with us now, I brought him back because I wanted to salute his contribution to the band from previous years. And but he knows that he's only playing for this year. Next year, I hope to bring back Geordie Leach playing bass and Rob Riley playing guitar. So which means we'll have three guitar players. Yeah. That's going to be crazy. But it's a way of acknowledging their contribution for past years and past albums. But right now we're working very, very hard to try and get 10 tracks. I mean, it's a standard album, but these days it's kind of like, even if you've got 6 tracks, I mean, because everything's, as you know, it's uploaded. If there's a physical copy made, well, that's a bonus. But yeah, so we try to make our final statements musically as we possibly can, because come the end of New Year's Eve, 2026. The band was born on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So we'll pass on the same way. New Year's Eve, that'll be. We want to go on stage at about half an hour before the 12 o'clock, and then we'll come off stage half an hour after 12 o'clock and walk away forever.
So this release of the album coincides with the 50th anniversary, isn't it, of Rose Tattoo?
Yeah. See, I imagine the different record companies around the world will. When I say imagine, I know they're all working on packages to mark, the 50th anniversary and the finality or the bow out. There'll be some pretty interesting collectibles around. But like I say, there'll be, hopefully, I mean, fingers crossed, there'll be quite a few new tracks. I mean, there'll be an album with this lineup, and then I want to write and record with Rob Riley next year. Yeah.
Okay. Your live, this current tour, are you playing my favorite song? I think it's from you, Angry Anderson, Suddenly.
No. But I have it just wouldn't fit with Rose Tattoo, but there's a bunch of songs. I did a couple of solo albums for Mushroom, which Suddenly's off the first one. And the other one was called Blood from Stone, and we had a fairly respectable hit with a song called Bound for Glory. So when Rose Tats are over, we're going to go on and be the Angry Anderson Band, and we'll play those songs and some sort of it'll be sort of like some classic R&B sort of stuff from my era, the Tamla Motown R&B. So it'll be a band. I've always loved the Faces, Rod Stewart and the Faces, and the way their approach to beautifying those wonderful old R&B songs and a lot of their own material too. Obviously, when I do cover shows, I do 4 or 5 Roddy Stewart songs. But yeah, so for a couple of years, until I settle up all my affairs and buy a property, because I want to get out of the city. for my old age, and so I'll go and I want to find a small country town and just buy in there and just live out there. But that'll take a few years. So during those years, I'll do the Angry Anderson Band, and we will feature suddenly. We actually did that. We toured that album years and years ago, and we had a keyboard player, obviously, and we did that song quite a lot. But and the B-side too, a song called Falling. But yeah, it was a beauty. I mean, because I think particularly in my own personal case, I always laugh about this, but all of a sudden, I found out that there was a female audience out there. Where previously, we didn't attract too many females.
Yeah. So you were in Mad Max, were you? Mad Max 3.
Yeah.
How was it like, mate, to be along
Well,
Gibson Turner, I think? Yeah.
When people ask me that, the first thing I always say is, well, I bought my house. So the thing was that I got the job. I really wanted to be in Mad Max 2, but I put myself down, to be available. But there was a big tour booked for us at the same time, so I couldn't. So we reapplied. Pardon me, reapplied, as it were, for the third one, and George by then he knew that when with the second movie, he knew who I was and what I did, and so it made when they got Tina Turner to play the pivotal role apart from Max himself. They thought, well, it's right. It was really cool to have another singer. Not that it added any great value, but someone who looked like they belonged in the movie. Because most singers, let's face it, most singers don't look like they belong in a Mad Max movie. Yeah. Most singers don't look like me anyway, or I don't look like most singers, but. Having said that, it was a wonderful experience because I was given a wonderful role to play. Mel and I became pretty good mates during the make, and we stayed mates for many years after. And it was a wonderful experience to and again, Tina and I clicked. Right from the first day, both being singers, and I was a huge fan of hers, etc. And so we had that basis, musical basis for a relationship, which we both enjoyed during the making of the movie. And the other thing too, which I'll always treasure, was that we spent a lot of time together because. For a lot of the time, we shared a caravan, to get dressed and get makeup and all that kind of stuff. And so we were able to, and because we established through music, so we established this relationship very early on. She was able to open up to me about her childhood and her terrible life with Ike, and I was able to open up to when I say complete stranger, she was a stranger to me, but as I said, we quickly established this great affinity, this great intimacy of relationship, and I was able to open up and tell her about my childhood, and it was a real breakthrough for me to do that, and it began my journey towards being able to talk freely about, being the victim of a pedophile, my domestic situation. There was domestic violence. I was able to speak openly about it. So I'll always be eternally grateful to her because she was a catalyst in a sense, that she helped me open up about the whole thing because she has such a similar story.
Yeah. Finally, how is it like to be the lead singer of Rose Tattoo back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or even now? How it must be surreal, isn't it, to be the lead singer of one of the most iconic bands in Australia?
It's fucking great. It is fucking great being the singer in this band. And the one thing, okay, so one of the most obvious, well, do you regret not touring more in America? You didn't become huge. You were going to be, the next AC/DC. You could have been a millionaire. Do you regret all that? And I said, well, you'd be a fool to say, well, that would have been nice, had it happened, but it didn't happen. But the one thing that I do have is that I was the first. Well, I wasn't the first singer, but I was the singer that got the job. I helped put the band onto a stage. We, as a band, have written some great songs. We've done thousands and thousands of great gigs. And yeah, so my experience as being the singer for Rose Tattoo and the lyric writer has allowed me now at the end of that story, the Rose Tattoo story, I can comfortably say, regrets I have but a few, but too few to mention. It's been a fabulous ride. It still is. Every night we get up on stage and I'm out there singing and I think I'm singing in the best fucking rock and roll band in the world. And it's just fucking great, brother. Great.
I remember first time seeing you was it at the Kiss concert 10 years ago? Were you the opening for Kiss and Motley Crue? Was it Guns N' Roses? Can't remember.
Was Guns N' Roses, yeah.
Was Guns N' Roses, wasn't it?
You might have seen me at Kiss concerts as a punter, but yeah, no, it was Guns N' Roses and Motley's, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Mr. Angry Anderson, look, it's such a great honor to have a chat with you, mate. I wish I could take off my shirt, mate, but I don't look as good as you, mate. 30 years younger, but sorry.
It's cool, brother. It's cool. We can fix that.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we can fix that. We can get you some shirts.
No. So thank you so much for your time, mate. I really appreciate it. Yeah, hope to see you soon, man.
Oh, brother. Thank you, brother. And I really very much appreciate the support.
Oh, I think you're breaking up.
And have you got everything?
So I think you're breaking up anyway. Yeah, I think I've got everything. I've got, yeah.
You've got we'll send you the clip for the single.
Yeah.
Maybe we can chat again at some stage.
I would love to. Look, you're so generous of your time, mate, because when Kat told me she allowed 15 minutes, I said, really? 15 minutes? That's really awesome. So, normally it's like 15, 20 minutes, mate, but thank you so much for your time, mate. No, appreciate it, sir.
It's a pleasure, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bye.